how to be women watching their mothers. And then it's reversed with the little boys. Little boys really get their feelings, their good feelings about themselves from their mothers. And that, so both need mothering and fathering, but little boys get their good feelings about themselves. They learn how to be men by watching a father figure or man, but they really learn how to be to get their good feelings about themselves from their mothers. And like I said, the reverse with daughters and fathers. So what happens then is when a child, let's say this little girl is born into a household, I will tell you that no parent wakes up some morning and says, well, today's the day I go screw up my kids' lives. By and large, parents want to be the best parents that they know how to be, and usually we just pass on to our children what was given to us, unless we spend hours and lots of time and money and therapy before we ever get married and have children. But most of us don't do that. We don't know what we don't know until we know it, and that's when we become parents. But anyway, so so this is a no blame and no fault lecture. So if you're a parent, don't take this on as that you're failing or have failed. This is just information. So, but when a child is, let's say a little girl is born into a family where there is an absent father. Now that father can be in the home and still be absent. They can be absent from alcoholism, drug addiction, any addiction will do. Sex addiction, work addiction is a big one in this type of family system. So what happens is it's anything that makes the father turn their back from the daughter, and they may be going out to work, let's say it's a work addict that gets up of a morning, very productive, provides well for his family, and he made a decision from his childhood. Maybe he had a father that didn't provide, and he made a decision he was going to be different. Nevertheless, we usually make decisions based on our childhood, what happened to us. So let's say this father gets up of a morning, goes into the room, kisses the children goodbye while they're still asleep, and he leaves for work. And he's gone all day, maybe into the evening, and by the time he gets home, the children are in bed. He goes in and he kisses them goodnight, and the children may have not seen him all day long. Maybe he'll show up some on the weekends, but even then he will be attached to his telephone or the computer. A work addict gets in a zone, and they get drunk on, just like someone can get drunk on the drug alcohol. A work addict gets in that zone and they get focused. And so it presents what my friend Pia Melody gave us. It's called the back walking away. And so when a little girl or a little boy is raised with the parent leaving all of the time, that back walking away, that's what the little girl gets addicted to, trying to get her father's attention some way. Now, sometimes the relationship with the mother can be enmeshed, or the mother can make the daughter her confidant. A lot of times she'll even talk to the child about the anger toward the father. So that dynamic is what we call one dominating parent, like the mother has to be mother and father and everything to the child. And then, so one dominating parent and one ineffective parent. Ineffective parent in that they're absent a lot, either, like I said, through work addiction or some form of addiction. Any addiction will do to set up that feeling of abandonment and neglect. Now, for a little girl raised like that, and I'll tell you, and the fathers can sometimes look very good. These can be, we've treated a lot of ministers' children that have felt total neglect because the father is focused on the church, and they spend many hours on their congregation. And so it can bring up those feelings of the daughter that being abandoned, and then get addicted to that back walking away, always trying to get the father's attention. And so then what happens as they grow up, it can turn into love addiction. And what a love addict is they're addicted to the fantasy. They don't know what a healthy relationship with a man would look like, because what they know is what they see in the home and their relationship with their father. That is what that's based on. That's what they base their what they're looking for in a mate is what is their father figure. So if you have an absent father, what the little girl will do is make up a fantasy. She will be the one that will, read romance novels. She'll watch, Hallmark movies. She'll watch, she gets into that she'll romanticize a lot. And so that she lives in a fantasy that she's going to find this right man, this man for her, that's going to fill up that hole in the soul. Because what this creates, when either parent is not present for a child, what it creates is, like I said, is a hole in the soul. And for men and women, we've treated them both, it can, when you have that hole in the soul, you try to fill it up with something. And what the love addict tries to do is fill it up with finding love in all the wrong places. It's like they have an umbilical cord attached, and they go around trying to find some place, somebody to plug into, to love me, just love me, love me, love me. Now keep in mind, they don't know that in their head, in their psyche, what has been set up is to go toward people that can't be available, that are not available. They're either married, and when you're in a relationship with a married man, oh my God, it sounds so good. He's getting ready to leave his wife, but he can't, because maybe his wife is pregnant, or maybe he needs to be there for the kids, but he is going to divorce her and marry you sooner or later. He lies. Married men lie. They lie a lot. So you'll choose someone that's unavailable, like a married man. Or, love addicts will choose a good-looking gay guy and think, I can change him. All he needs is for me to love him, and he will change. Or they will find someone that is emotionally not available to them, so they can chase after him. The chaser in this type of relationship starts usually with the love addict. Now, your other partner, the part of this equation, the addict, a lot of times they're sex addicts, not all the time, but a lot of times a love addict will hook up with a sex addict. And, a sex addict, or any form of addict, can be very enticing. They can look good. They are very flirtatious. They will invite people to come close to them, and they will really invite a love addict, and they don't have to do too much, get a love addict all over them, because a love addict will attach themselves like that to someone. I mean, they can meet and greet, and she's already planning the wedding, and so what happens is, if a love addict gets too close to either any form of an addict, whether it's a work addict, alcoholism, sex addict, they will let them come close. But if the love addict gets too close, what they do is they start smothering. They don't know how to do anything in a balance. And so what happens is the sex addict, the person that the love addict is going toward, will have that fear of intimacy. And so they will let a love addict get so close, and then it scares them to death when a love addict gets so close, because, they get really close and they're, want to have a relationship, and they are bonded, to them. The other addict, the other person is not bonded. Now see, go back to childhood. They never bonded with that primary parent. They missed that bonding. So they're trying to find that bonding in men. So the minute that addict, that sex addict, or the avoidant is what we call them. We call them I can't remember who gave her that, but anyway, she calls that the sex addict, alcoholic, I can't even talk this morning, as the avoidant addict. They are avoidant, and here is the love addict going after the avoidant addict. Now, the avoidant addict will let them come so close, and then they turn around and begin to walk away. Now, the minute they do that, that just charges that love addict up. Now, she will chase that avoidance addict, and she will chase them. Now, this will be the one that will become your stalker. I mean, when they go to the extreme, they will become your stalker. They'll be the one that will drive around your place of business. That'll be the one that will, chase a man, go to his house, knock on the front door, ring the doorbell, and know that he's in there with someone else. The stalker, the love addict. Now, this is to the extreme, and not all love addicts do this, but to the extreme. I say extreme, it doesn't take a whole lot for a love addict to get caught up into that chase. So they're chasing someone that cannot be there for them. That is the purpose of it. Their dad, that's their frame of reference. Their father was never there, and so they choose someone that can't be there for them. Now, what happens, and we see it all the time at the treatment center I've seen it with men, but we really see it with women, particularly your anorexics, your bulimics. What starts happening, now let me tell you this, parents' behavior does not cause any addiction. We do not cause an addiction. We can't cure it. We can't control it. We can contribute to it. So don't hear me say that a father can make a daughter have an eating disorder. That's not what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is many of our eating disordered people, particularly your anorexics, will have that father hunger. And what they do is, and it's all on an unconscious level, subconscious level, what they do is they begin to either overuse food to ease the pain and become overweight or obese. And that, the pain, I was reading an article the other day that I so do not believe in. Some professional was saying, some PhD was saying that it's not true that overweight people have unresolved pain and anger. And what I want to say is, I wish you would come here and sit through some of our groups with the folks that we treat, because I see it. I believe with overweight people, every excess pound represents unresolved pain and anger. And then every pound that an anorexic is underweight represents the same thing. And so what anorexia does is help you not to feel, well, both will help you not feel. For an anorexic to start the refeeding process, that's why the refeeding is so slow for an anorexic, because when they start eating, the feelings come up. And about the time the insurance company, or whoever's paying the bill will pay for 30 days, 42 days of treatment, we're just barely getting them to the feeding stage. It takes time to treat an anorexic, a long time. Because, and for any eating disorder person, what we're trying to do is get something from the outside to bring inside ourselves to make ourselves feel better. So for love addiction, now going back to this chase, the love addict chasing the love avoidance. Now let's say this love avoidant, maybe they've been doing this a long time. Maybe they go off to treatment and they realize that how they have, from their own childhood, maybe they had a typical scenarios, maybe they had a mother that overmothered them, that engulfed them. Maybe her husband was not available, maybe it was domestic violence, it could be a number of things. But let's say the mother overloved this son and what we call engulfed that son and made that son much more than what he was a kid. But instead of treating him like a kid, she would elevate him up, and that child was going to be his savior. So when a man or a young boy is raised by that type of mother, I'll tell you, you're going to pop an avoidance addict majority of the time when they get in adult life, because the energy from parenting goes from the parent to the child. The energy, are y'all with me? The positive energy or any type of energy the teaching needs to go from the parent to the child, not the child to the parent. But in this type of where there is a mother that engulfs this little boy, she is wanting the child to love her. And when that happens, he will grow up and he'll probably not even like women. He may love sex. He'll be like my father. My father hated women. I believe he was engulfed by his mother. My father was the oldest of 10 children. His father died when he was 13, and he became the man of the house. And I believe that he was abused by his mother. And I think he grew up not liking women. He just played it many times. But he loved sex. He was a sex addict. So getting back to this little boy, so he grew up not really having that fear of intimacy, that fear of women getting too close to him. So let's say this avoidance addict goes off to treatment and he works on all of that and realizes that, not only is he turning his back on some wonderful relationships because of his own, hadn't worked on his own issues because of his own fear of intimacy. So he goes off, gets in good recovery, gets a sponsor. Maybe a year later, he's in really good recovery, and his sponsor says, well, maybe it's time for you to be in a relationship. So he's kind of kept in touch with this love addict. They're friends, they kind of kept in touch. So they're attracted again. They come back together. Now, when that love avoidant is in recovery, and how you know if you're in recovery is when you can stand tall, autonomous with the God of your own understanding, when you can be okay with who you are and begin to love yourself unconditionally. Are y'all with me? And can accept God's love and know that you're just a child of God. And that when you can be okay alone, you're ready to stand with someone else. But when you're not, you're going into that relationship to get something. And you'll choose someone with the same idea, and both of you wind up disappointed because you don't know what you don't know. So let's go back to this man that's in recovery for a year, and he wants a healthy relationship. So he goes towards this love addict. Now what happens when he gets close to her and she's no longer doing the chasing? What'll happen will be her fear of intimacy. It's like a love addict is like this: come close, stay away. And many of them, that's by and large a characteristic for adult children of alcoholics across the board. Because adult children of alcoholics, majority of the time, do not know anything about intimacy. Intimacy is into me, I see. When we can be okay with ourselves, we can be okay with others. All right, so here this love of Wadit is in good recovery, ready for relationship, and he goes towards this love addict. And the minute he gets close and she's not doing the chasing, that fear of intimacy comes up, and she'll turn around and she'll walk away, and she'll become the back walking away. So it's a dance that both partners can do. Now, if one gets healthy enough, like if this avoidance addict is in good recovery, and he has taken a liking to himself, and he's beginning to, through the God of his understanding and through recovery, is knowing that he is okay, and that it's that he loves himself, and he's and that he can love someone else. Now, if he's healthy, he might stand and wait on her, but she's going to have to get into her own recovery. If she doesn't, what she'll do is she'll go pick someone else out that can't be there for her and start the dance over. We see it all of the time. Can any of you identify with any of this? So what happens then, if both parties get into some recovery, and they can stand alone, autonomous. God made us to live in community. He made us to have partners, whether it's opposite, same sex or opposite partners. He made us to live in partnership, coupleship. That until you are healthy enough to learn to love yourself enough and be okay with you, whether you're with someone or not, like I said, you won't be able to go in and have a healthy relationship because you're going in there to get something. And then the other person is doing the same thing. They think you're going to fix them. And what happens, you turn out to have, that's why the divorce rate is so high. I was reading just the other day, and I think I wrote about it in the Post, where this couple had been together for a year. And what happens after that year or so, the honeymoon's over, they're getting to understand about each other, and that they all have things that they don't like about each other, And what happens, instead of standing still and working through the difficulties with the one that you are in a relationship with, what we say is learn to dance with the partner that you brought to the party. When you get that dance down, you can either stay and dance with them forever and waltz across that floor till you're celebrating 50 or 60 years. But if you can't get that dance together, what you'll do is you'll ditch that one and go off and find someone else to twirl you around a time or two. This is serious business, folks, because it's people who are immature within themselves, and most addicts, and I'm including eating disorders, alcoholism, drug addiction. Whenever we start an addiction at whatever age, when we stop that addiction and we start in recovery, guess what? Emotionally, we are the age that we were when we started the addiction. So I stayed 4 years old for a long time. I started by eating disorder at age 4. You can grow up and you can function in some areas, but emotionally you're going to be stuck in that childhood where your needs were not met in childhood. So recovery is about learning to grow ourselves up, learning to do the work like we do here at Shades, the childhood work, and leave the past in the past, because until we do that, we are going to keep that cycle going of trying to find someone to complete us until we know that we're complete within ourselves. We got to know that we are complete within ourselves before we can go and stand with another person. And I will tell you, when you get okay with yourself, your picker is going to get better. Most people that have multiple relationships, their picker is broke. They pick sick people out of their own sickness. So when you can stand alone, feel good about yourself, you're going to choose people that are healthier to be with. Sickness seeks its own level. Are you with me? Sickness seeks its own level. Health seeks its own level. Now, sometimes two sick people get together. I mean, my husband and I were probably two of the sickest people on the face of the earth. But we had enough of what I call enough romance or enough of that love. It wasn't a whole lot at first, but there was enough there. The grace of God, and I will tell you, it is because of our addictions. Had we not had addictions, we probably would both be dead because we would have killed each other out of our anger. But since we both had addictions, until you can be in a relationship with another person, if you're an addict, you cannot be in a healthy relationship with the person, because what you're doing is your addiction is between you and your partner. And so if you got two addicts there, the addiction is right between the two of you. So I thank God today for my husband, for both of us having addictions, and that we got sick enough to get into recovery, because when we got into individual recovery, we didn't know each other. Guess what? When the problem is not each other. I wasn't the problem, he wasn't the problem. We thought, he thought I caused everything, I thought he caused everything. And so we continued to fight because I wanted to straighten him up and he wanted to be silent. And if he was silent enough, maybe I'd go away and leave him alone. And so, but once we both got healthy enough, I don't believe people can put relationships together. I really don't. I think we can be healthy enough to want to be in a relationship. I think the relationship is a third entity, and that you have to step in the relationship together, and that God puts the relationship together. I do not think we can force a relationship. But when you invite God into that relationship, and it takes two healthy people to do that, your relationship's going to change. One of the things that we were given when my husband first sobered up, and of course I had taken over being the spiritual leader of the house. A lot of women do. And the reason they do is because the men won't. I mean, that's the basic truth. So the women, take charge, take the kids to church, drag him off to church, blah, blah, blah. So one of the things that his sponsor had us to do, and we were, by the way, church-going people, at Southern Baptist Church. We never missed a service, but we treated each other horrible inside the home. So one of the things he had us to do was of a morning to get on our knees. And he said, now, Ariel, you take charge of that. Tennie, you do not drag him down there on his knees. This is his assignment. And he would say, get on your knees, hold hands, and invite God into your day and into your marriage. Now, I'll tell you, that was awkward at first. It was hard, and I wanted to take charge because I'd been praying forever, and I wanted to teach him how. And I had to be quiet and let him take the lead. And when he took the lead, you'd be amazed. It's just amazing how that man grew when I got out of his way. And that's what we have to do when we're in the relationship with an addict, is get off their back, get out of their way, and go on with their own life. So, going back to childhood, if we do not address those childhood issues and get complete within ourselves and the God of our understanding, you can find someone to marry, and you can be married maybe 50 years, and it can be miserable every day. Maybe you'll have a few good days, but until both parties have something to bring to that coupleship, there's not going to be a unity. So, I want to talk a little bit about good parenting, because it all starts with parenting. And if you grew up in a house like I did, where I had more sense than most parents most of the time, anyway, they would have done better if they could have. But I want to tell you about this little story of a little boy. It could be a little girl. But most of the days, this little boy and his mother go to the park. And they've been doing this. Little boy's about 3 years old. 3 or 4 years of age is when they start, in that first year of when a child's born, that first year is spent on bonding. Now, it's a natural bonding between mother and child. Fathers have to work at that. They have to really do that on purpose. They really have to bond with the child that first year. So this little kid's 3 or 4 years old. His dad's not around much, but he's off this one day, and the mother had something to do, so she asked him to take the little boy to the park. So they got to the park, and here was all these mothers with their kids. The little boy knew all of them because they played together, so he went over to the sandbox to play. But he's at the age that he is wanting to separate. By the time they're 3 or 4, they're beginning to have their own autonomy, or wanting their own autonomy and wanting their own identity. And they begin to separate from parents, which is a natural, and Erik Erikson gave us this childhood development. So the kid goes over there in the sandbox, and he's playing, and the dad sits over on the park bench. Now, his dad is his security. Are you with me? So every once in a while, the kid will look over there and see his dad sitting on the park bench, and he goes back to playing. He's comfortable. Occasionally, the dad will go over there to the sandbox to check on him, and he's kind of embarrassed. He wants his dad to go on back over there, on the bench. So the little boy continues to play, and all of a sudden, the dad gets up and walks over about 20 feet to a water fountain to get a drink of water. About that time, the little boy looks up and notices that the dad is not on the park bench. And immediately, the little boy gets upset. First thing, he's scared. Where has my dad gone? Or my mother? It could be either parent. And so the child gets up and starts running around, and this takes seconds, folks. We're not talking about no long period of time. And the father's never taken his eyes off the little boy. He's watching the kid. But the little boy's way down here, and the dad's up here, and the little boy was watching that park bench. All he knew, there was an absent park bench. His father wasn't there. So he's running around looking for his dad. Fear. And so he sees him, and then he goes up and grabs him by the leg, and that fear then turns to anger, and he'll start kind of having a little fit. Where were you? And he's really scared, and he might even kick his dad and just kind of have a little fit, Now, if that father is unhealthy, and he can't handle his own feelings, let alone his kids, what he'll say is things like this, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Come on, be a man. Or he'll say, act your age. Well, he is. He's 3 years old. He's acting his age. He'll say things because what the father's got going is he's embarrassed with those mothers over there watching him, how he's going to parent this little boy, and they're wondering why he's not making the kids shut up. And so the child's feelings are bothering the father, because the father's own feelings bother him. Are y'all with me? But let's switch it. Let's say that father's healthy. And so he sees his little boy upset. In the bottom line is fear. He's scared. That's usually the thread that runs through it most every feeling. So the father will get on eye level with the little boy and look at him eye to eye. And he will mirror back to him, I hear that you're angry, I hear that you're fearful, I hear that you're scared. And this takes a few seconds. And all of a sudden, that anger and that fear will turn to pain, and that little boy will start crying, well, I was scared, I didn't, and he'll cry for a few minutes, just a few minutes. And the father will pick him up and maybe hug him for a few minutes. That little boy feels secure, and all of a sudden he catches himself, and I wonder what my friends are thinking. But he's all right. And so he'll push away from his dad, get down, run back over there to the sandbox, and continue to play. Chances are that kid will never show up in a therapist's office. I mean, that's how we make it know. But anyway, if a child can learn from their parents how to have feelings, and that feelings are okay, they're not facts, and be acknowledged from the time they're little bitty, that those feelings are okay. They might not have to find a way to deal with those feelings through drugs, alcohol, love addiction, sex addiction, you name the addiction, work addiction. So, all right, I think I've done all of that. So, like I said, how you get past this is to do your work. Do your own work. Do your own individual work. You can't do your work for your spouse or your kids, but you can do it for yourself. And so, I've been doing this for a long time, and early on, when we first started hearing about adult children of alcoholics, some of us, I probably could have softened a little bit, but I had built me such a defense, a wall around me, that I didn't soften up a whole lot to the talk about adult children of alcoholics. But I noticed a lot of people coming in treatment at that time, carrying teddy bears and acting like babies and taking teddy bears to 12-step meetings or dolls. Now, I'm all okay with that in a therapy setting or at home. I'm not for that, taking it into a courtroom or to a classroom. Or I think that is where they pushed that adult child of alcoholic movement. But everything, the pendulum swings from one extreme to the other. And I saw it. And now for the ACOA work, it's pretty much floated to the center. So I'm saying that to say we must do our childhood pain work, whatever that is. Do the work around the child, whether there's any form of abuse that must be done. And if it's severe abuse, it may take a while. But one day you will know. What we say is continue to work, either go to workshops, come to treatment. It's hard to do the kind of childhood work that I'm talking about in a therapist's office for an hour a week. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can do some things, you can get your story recognized, you can write about it, but as far as doing that deep feeling work, you can't do it just, in an hour in a therapist's office. Is actually 50 minutes. And it would take years to do this kind of work. So what we recommend is to do the work and get your history straight about your childhood and what happened to you as a little girl or a little boy. Just do the work, and see, gosh, some of those things should have happened to a dog, let alone a child. And so as the adult that you are today, you do the work for that child part of you. The child could not ask for help. The child could not say, stop doing that to me. The child could not say, please love me. Please stay home from work. Please take, the child didn't have that skill to engage a parent to be there for them. So you do that work for that inner child as an adult. And then at some point, we must look back at our past and say, that should have happened to an animal, let alone a child. But so what? It did. It's a reality. So what? Now what? And bring it up to the present day. And quit lugging that garbage around. Quit picking up the baggage of the past that's not even yours to carry. It was given to you in childhood. And if you continue to choose carrying your mom and dads and grandparents and own, generational abuse, if you continue to carry that, you will continue to be sick. And so, what, we say is get to the point of, so what, I hate that happened, but so what? I'm leaving the past in the past. Today, I am an adult. I am in charge, and I am responsible for all of the good in my life today, and I'm responsible for the bad stuff, because most of it as an adult we create ourselves. Or if you continue to be around sick people and keep trying to get love from people who can't give it, that's on you. It's not on them. Because when you become an adult and know the difference, it's your job to take care of yourself, not your partner's, not anybody's. It's your job. And so I have sort of stopped sharing and gone to preaching. But I want to say something about, go back to this piece of the love addict. For women particularly, it can set up eating disorders quicker than anything, to have that father hunger, that longing for the father. Because they, it like I said, it creates that hole in the soul. Now, for an animal to starve themselves to death in order to get their dad's attention. And I will tell you this, most of those fathers, I'll say all of those fathers, unless they get the help themselves and learn how to love a child, whether it is a child or a grown adult child, until the father learns how to give love. And they can't do that without doing their own work. A child can expect it till hell freezes over. And, you can't keep going to a dry well to get a drink of water. If you keep trying to get your parents to love you the way you think they didn't or that they should, you're going to have to get over yourself. It would be wonderful if all family members got into recovery together and went down that path. We've got some right here on this Zoom right here meeting, that their family members have done that they're all in recovery and walking toward, that road of recovery together. And then some are on the journey. But if you're an adult and you're still withholding love from your children, you need to look at yourself about that. Because if you didn't get it from your parents, there used to be a saying when we first got into ACOA work, we used to hear this, oh, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. I hate to bust your bubble. If you didn't have a happy childhood, guess what? You're not going to have a happy childhood. I do not want to go back and be that kid again. I love being an adult. I don't want to go back there, So I missed having a happy childhood. But I'll tell you, I have a wonderful adult life today, and you can too. We can have a wonderful adult lives. Now there's times that, we can play, that child on the inside, that child part of us, that's the creative part, that's the spunky part, that's the one that keeps, when we're 77, it's still that little part in me that can, make me skip or ride a bike or have fun. So we don't want to just kill off that part of ourselves. That creative part, that being childlike. There's a difference in being childlike and being childish. If you want to see some childish people, you come over and watch our at any mealtime. And I've got some clients on here that they know that I'm preaching to them. You come over at any mealtime and you watch those eating disorder people trying to feed themselves, and what they're doing, they're trying to let the child in them make the decisions about what they're going to eat or not eat instead of the adults in them. So when the adult can take charge and start refeeding themselves and start taking care of themselves, they can grow themselves up and have a wonderful life. But until then, they will stay sick in whatever addiction that they have, so they can be hopefully that someone will come and rescue them. Guess what? There is no knights in shining armor out there charging up to try to, no fairy godmothers coming to get you guys. They're not. Well, there's nobody out there that's going to come rescue you. It's about learning to take care of yourselves. You are worth it. You are worth it. So I want to read you this. If each of us could love ourselves as we wish to be loved, then we wouldn't let our hunger for love make decisions for us. You want me to read that again? If each of us could love ourselves as we wish to be loved, oh, just don't, that love addict just lives in that fantasy about, oh, she's gonna make this partner, and he's gonna do this, and he's gonna do that, and life's gonna be wonderful, and it is a bunch of BS. But anyway, life could be wonderful, but it's not gonna come from the other person until you love yourself from the inside. So if each of us could love ourselves as we wish to be loved, then we wouldn't let our hunger for love make decisions for us. Every time an eating disorder person goes to the table to make decisions about what they are going to eat, to feed, to put in their adult body to make their engine go just for today or for the next few hours, an adult has to make that decision. A child has been making it too long. If you're living in an anorexic body, a bulimic body, or obese, the child in you has been making the decisions. So you've been letting about, whatever age, an 8-year-old drive the bus or whatever. So food for the body is not enough. We must have food, fuel for the soul. And what it is, that's got to come from the inside out. We cannot make ourselves whole. That our Heavenly Father can fill up those empty places and empty spaces in our lives if we will let them, that we have filled with addictions when we're sick. Only our Heavenly Father, not our biological father, our stepdads, or our mothers, or our dad, if you're a grown person, your job now is to take care of yourself and turn around. Whether your parents have changed or not, treat your parents with love, dignity, and respect, and let them go. And if you're raising children, I'll give you the formula for raising children. It's not that I'm just all-knowing. But what you do, for the first 14 years that you have a child, it's your job to teach that child everything that you know that child might need to go out there and live their life. The reason I say 14, because about 13, 14 years of age, or 15, it's like those earlobes go up and cover over those ears, and teenagers quit listening to parents. So you've got a short window of time right in there to teach your children. 14, 15 years of age, teach them everything that you possibly can so they can go out there and live life. And then you allow them to live in your house, till they're 18 or so, till they go off to college. What I always say, by the time a teenager is fit to live with, they're living with somebody else. But anyway, you raise them, you love them, and guess what? Then you let them go. And healthy parenting, you can't wait till they're 18 years old to let them go. That starts at that kid in that sandbox, the father standing back and letting him play, giving him some space with his friends. And as that child gets older, you give them more space and more space. Go on out there, do that. And at 18, when they leave that home, up until the day that we die, if we die first, our job as parents is to be back there backing them up, saying, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be backing you up, I'm going to support you, and, I love you and I care about you, and I know you can do it. And you're not going to come back here and do it. I mean, we've made that statement to our children, and our children, once they left home, never have lived back in our home. Now, we did tell them we will pay for treatment, we will pay for halfway houses, We will pay for whatever you need if you want to get healthy. And if you're, well, everyone needs a little help occasionally. But, we raised our children to learn to be independent and go live their own lives. And the reason that we knew to do that, were we that good of parents? No, but we both came from such dysfunction. We knew that we had to do something different with our children that wasn't done to us. And we both got in recovery. Our children lived with us more in our recovery than they did in the disease, and I'm grateful for that. I want to tell you one more thing is, and then I want to go. I have not talked. Oh my Lord, I've spent up all of our time. I haven't talked much about my youngest grandchild, Spencer McCarty, Malcolm. I've watched. He's had two of the healthiest parents that I have ever known. They taught that kid everything I believe he needed to know, from cooking to washing clothes. Now, he didn't take real fondly to that washing clothes, so right at the last minute he needed to learn how to do it. But basically, they taught him everything that they knew to teach him, to go out there and live. And then when he got all 9 colleges approached him about going into their school and playing football and getting an academic scholarship. He got both. He chose a school about as far away as, like 1,200 miles, St. Louis. He went in there with his head held high. He talked to those coaches himself. He, not his parents, him. He dealt with them, each one. He made his choice, and he's there now. And kind of got cold chills, and I'm not going to start crying. They thought he was sick last week. They thought he had COVID. And so his parents went up there, drove up there. And then one came back, and the other one stayed. And by the grace of God, he wasn't sick. And yesterday they found out he wasn't sick, so his mother came back, or day before yesterday. So he's back out on that football field practicing. But I'm going to tell you what that young man did. He told his parents, I can handle this. I can do this. Now, being concerned parents, they wanted to, he's a freshman, they wanted to go up and make sure. But that is healthy parenting. They gave him the tools and the skills. Now, as his grandmother, I wanted to keep him little bitty so we could play forever, So that's the reason I wasn't his parent. So I'm just holding them. I'm not saying that they were perfect, but they were pretty perfect in my eyes, and I've sat back and watched, because that's what you do. You teach children everything you know to teach them, and then you let them go, and then you stand back and back them up. And we've got a person here, Miss Jackie. I have watched her. I'm taking the privilege to say this. Had my friend Jackie not gotten in really good recovery from her codependency, I don't know. I think she would have made her adult children's lives miserable. Am I saying that right, Jackie? Because she learned to let them go. And I'm watching her and her husband having a whole new love affair in their relationship, in their empty nest. That is the process of life, is letting go and let each person be who God intended them to be, precious and free. I've spent all the time. You don't have any time to share. What do you think, Cam? I can't hear you. You're unmute.
Once you can't hear